This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
Here it is. I got it all together. It is the After Party live on this Friday. Tim Sika should be along any minute to talk movies, and he's got some great movie reviews coming up for you today. Thank you for hanging on the Mark Thompson show. I know it went a little late, but we had some great guests today, and I'm glad that we didn't do Friday Fabulous Florida today because of everything that's going on there, the people that are suffering and things that are happening. I think it's good to give it a break this week because we don't want people to feel like we're laughing at them in this time of tough times, basically. So that's why we didn't do it this week. It'll be back next week, and our best wishes to the people of Florida as they try to recover from Hurricane Milton. Speaking of Hurricane Milton, here we have my friend Wes from Florida, who I didn't know before we started the shows here on YouTube, Mark's show, Nikki's show, and this show, and has become just this person I find myself completely caring about, and all the way in Florida. And I feel like I was really, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but I was really worried about him. And I feel like I'm so grateful that he is okay. And despite everything in his state and the stress of going through all this, he still every day manages to kick $5 toward the effort. So huge thanks to Wes. Really, really appreciate it. It is time, because I'm so excited. Every week I have the absolute honor of getting to welcome Tim Sika to the show. It is time for At the Movies with Tim Sika, who comes along with these great movie reviews moments ago, and the show was late starting because we were just late on the Mark Thompson show, so we got a late start with Michael Snyder, and he talked about you and how much you guys like each other and that you guys need to get together. So
yeah.
So good. And what I love about it is really comparing the reviews you do, because often you'll have maybe you'll overlap on one or two movies, then you'll go off in a different direction. So the reviews are different. The segments are totally different. But the movies that you do overlap on, it's fascinating to me to hear what he says and hear what you say. And sometimes you'll agree, and sometimes it's like, did you guys even watch the same movie?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I know. There was a famous quote that, oh gosh, I can't remember the film book. It came out in the 60s, and I think it was Robert Benton, who his probably most famous movie is Kramer versus Kramer. He wrote and directed that one.
That was a good
and
movie.
he famously said something about, it's so strange talking to fellow filmmakers, and if you're a critic, fellow critics, because everybody is screaming at each other and nobody agrees on anything. They just, and it's the same movie that they're talking about, the exact same movie that they're talking about. So it's interesting, right? How, people can just have completely different,
totally different.
Perspectives. Yeah. So.
Well, one of the movies that Michael Snyder did review this week is called The Apprentice, and this is the one about
it's
the one about Trump, and I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about this movie.
Yeah, I'm wondering, sitting over here, wondering what Michael thought of it. Well, okay, The Apprentice. Okay, first of all, it's a biographical drama it's about two things actually. Number one, it's a dramatization of Donald Trump's career as a real estate businessman in New York in the 1970s and 80s when he was building Trump Tower. And two, it's a look into the relationship that he had with his lawyer, the infamous Roy Cohn, who was his role model in all things deceitful, prevaricating, and immoral. And okay, I'm just gonna say this. It was a struggle for me to remain objective about this movie, but it's important to point out that it is a very well made, very well acted by Jeremy Strong, who is in Succession. He plays the oldest son in Succession, and he's great here. He plays Roy Cohn, and Sebastian Stan, who's in another one of the movies we're going to talk about later. He plays a young Trump. And from all accounts, this is reasonably accurate. That much can be said about it. And then as a drama about two reprehensible human beings, it's quite compelling. But I am so, okay, here's where I'm going to throw all out objectivity out the window. I am so sick of Donald Trump, literally fear for those millions of American citizens unwilling or unable to grasp who he really is and what he really stands for. And I was so familiar already with the events being told in this movie that I borderline hated the experience of having to endure it and watch it, taking it all in. And that's not because the film was bad. It's actually quite good. But 2/3 into it, I wanted to stop paying attention anymore because, like I said, I'm so sick of this man. I find Roy Cohn in many ways worse than his Apprentice, hence the title of the film. The TV show is never spoken of because that came way later. But the movie cleverly is called The Apprentice because it's really about the apprentice of Roy Cohn. Anyway, but what am I saying here? The energy I was expending on both of these human aberrations was making me angry at myself. I mean, there's absolutely no rooting interest in any of these characters depicted here, and you just want them gone, especially when you know what's coming, right? One interesting aspect, though, of the film, I found this really interesting, was the way in which it implied, almost overtly, just exactly why Cohn decided to help Trump so much in the first place and agreed to represent him. And that implication was that Cohn was gay. He was closeted and he eventually died from AIDS. The film implies that Cohn kind of fancied Trump and may have been a little bit in love with him. Cohn kept referring to Trump as, good looking, and he would physically touch him in ways that would be interpreted as suspect. So that was interesting. And like I said, the film is quite good, but watching it just made me furious all over again that this con artist, this sociopathic narcissist actually occupied the White House for 4 years, committing treason at nearly every stage. I don't want to go there. I don't like to talk politics.
I will never understand it. But
no.
Having said that, while you and I may go, we don't need to see more of this for a mental sanity and mental health, maybe to immerse ourselves in the ugliness of all that is Trump isn't good for us. But for people that don't get it.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
Right? Like for people that are like, oh no, Trump's going to be fine. It's not going to be a big deal. America will be fine afterward. No. Maybe this, for some people, need to watch this movie.
Good. That is a very, very good point, Kim. And what's interesting too is in the beginning, I'm thinking, boy, they're portraying Trump too fairly in this movie. And that was kind of annoying too, but they did it deliberately because I think they want you to kind of sort of empathize with like where he came from, the way his father treated him, blah, blah, blah. But the character as written in the screenplay gradually emerges when the film's over as a really low-life, lying, narcissistic scumbag, which is most likely why his lawyers have been fighting over the film being released. They failed. I mean, the film opens today, but and again, I have no objectivity about it. Personally, I intensely disliked having to watch it. I honestly don't know what the point of it is. You may have nailed what the point of it is. I suppose if any of us out there wanted to be reminded of Cohn's rules for winning, because he believed that winning was all there was to life. Winning was everything. And no matter what, it was about winning at all costs. And I think what was his 3 rules for winning was attack, 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 and then to never admit anything, deny everything, and claim victory even if you've lost. Never admit defeat. Exploit your enemies and instill fear because nothing matters except winning. So I mean, if you're particularly into dramas about two reprehensible human beings bereft of any real humanity, The Apprentice may just be the movie for you.
Are you recommending it?
Am I recommending it? I suppose. I mean, it is a very good movie. What did Michael think?
He thought it was really good.
Yeah. I know, and that's the other thing. I'm hesitating. This is so weird because I'm so biased about this, but I even hate recommending a movie, even though it's really good, about that guy.
Well, here's the thing about him. Here's why I think he's always in the news, why everything you put, that's put on the internet with him is so clickable. His despicable tweets or social media posts are clickable and reportable. Whether you think he's despicable or whether you love him, his background and what made him into this really weird caricature of a human being is an interesting story.
Yes, that's true. And that you get that with this movie. It's never dull. But again, like I say, I have no objectivity about it. But do I recommend it as a well-made, really well-acted, well-directed movie? Absolutely. Yeah. It's just
I know.
Oh, God. I know. And when it was over, I just said, I can't stand this anymore.
I know.
But anyway.
I hope we don't have to stand it for 4 more years. That is the inexplicable part of America. Is how we could have this. And maybe that's what great that it came out right now then. Good.
I think it is good. It is good.
The ballots are in the mail. Watch this movie before you click the box, right?
Right. It is very good that it came out now. But you know what's interesting, Kim? I've been watching, I'm not just saying this because we're talking about Trump, but I've been watching documentaries on Hitler lately. And it's so interesting how, Hitler was so loved by the German people. And there was a moment in the war where his generals, the citizens, everybody knew that they were, Berlin was being bombed. Everything was devastated. They knew they were going to lose. And yet they still refused to believe that they were going to lose. And so what does Hitler do? He sends out young boys and old men, the Hitler youth, to fight this stupid fight, and everybody's like cheering. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the psychology of belief. And if people really, really believe something, there's no way in hell you're going to convince them that maybe it ain't true, or maybe there's another way to look at it. I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy. So anyway, watching these documentaries, I'm thinking, well, maybe that's what's going on here with people that just refuse to see who he really is. I don't know.
Very interesting comments.
Yeah.
B.A. Ware writes, I bring out the worst in my enemies, and that's how I get them to defeat themselves. He says that's a quote from Roy Cohen.
Yeah.
Karen Cooper says, one can overcome a bad childhood and bad parents by learning how to behave and what's ethical and empathetic. Well, somehow I think that missed him, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with Karen there. Yeah. Obviously it missed him. Yeah, because again, he was only interested in winning and really kind of like proving to his father that he was like maybe even better than his father. That whole family. Anyway, I see. Look at this. And what are we doing? We're talking about this a-hole.
I know. Rhonda says, aloha, Rhonda. I meant to see that movie today. It'll be my first theater since COVID. Maybe next week.
Yeah. Well, it is a good one.
You can't blame everything on childhood, she says.
Yeah, true.
Ricky agrees with you. Too much Trump in my world. Can't see spending time and money on something that isn't going to be entertaining. So that's the way it is.
Yeah, he says, make me laugh. Yeah, there's no way you're going to laugh at this movie.
No. Karen C says, I'd like to see that movie in order to understand more fully. So, just different takes,
Right. Yeah.
B.A. Ware, interestingly, says his brother wasn't a sociopath, so he turned to alcoholism to deal with his daddy issues, but Trump turned into a mafia don.
Right. Yeah, and that aspect of his life is dramatized too in the film. Yeah.
And you talked about this earlier. Cranky Charcoal from over in the UK says, I think he's talking about this Netflix documentary on Hitler is very good. Watched a lot of them, and you recommended that. You said that was good.
Yeah. I think months ago we talked about that. Yeah. But it just there's. I know the right and the GOP gets really angry when you compare him to Hitler, and right. I'm not going that far yet, but just the way he had somehow wrapped himself around the psychology of the German people and convinced them, even when it's that thing where it's plain as day. you see it, it's right in front of you, and yet you refuse to, oh, that's not really there. That's like somebody trying to fool me kind of thing. That's where there's similarities with all these millions of Americans who think that he's, the greatest thing since sliced bread. I just
Barf.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, barf.
Let's move on.
Let's
and
move
talk
on.
about this one, Mad About the Boy, a
Yeah.
Noel Coward story.
Yeah, this is a documentary about the English playwright, composer, director, actor, and singer, Noel Coward, known for, boy, his wit, his flamboyance, his sophistication, and what Time magazine called a sense of personal style, a combination of cheek and chic, pose and poise.
So I have to tell you something.
Yeah.
I've heard the name, but I don't know if I've ever seen anything he's done. So talk to me like I'm a newbie here, because I don't know. I don't really know him.
Okay, so first of all, he was very, very British and very, very. He came from poverty, and made a big name for himself. But if you don't know anything, before I talk a little more about the movie, if you don't know anything about Noel Coward, just go on YouTube and type in Noel Coward and see what comes up. And that will give you a better idea of who he was than what I'm about to say. Mostly he was funny. He was this British, he gives the impression that he was upper class, but he actually wasn't. He had a lot of masks that he wore in his life. But the thing about Coward was that he was hilarious in that upper crust British kind of way. When he was given a Tony for a life achievement, a Tony Award for achievement in the theater, and I remember this because I watched it as a kid, and I never forgot it. And I was so glad that they included this clip in this documentary. When he was given a Tony for life achievement, I think it was like in 1970 or thereabouts, and he came on stage to accept the award. There was all this applause, and then the applause suddenly died down. And then he looks out in the crowd and he paused for just a moment, and he says to the audience, "This is my first award, so please be kind." In other words, keep applauding, anyway. And I cannot even remotely deliver it like the way he did, but it just brought the house down. Anyway, intelligence and creativity just dripped off this man. And this movie, directed by Barnaby Thompson, it captures pretty much, well, what I wanted to say all, but it's a 90-minute film, so it can't capture all of what Noel Coward represented and who Noel Coward was, but it did capture the man's essence and his far-reaching creative notoriety. I learned a lot about Coward too. He was actually he was an entertainer primarily, a theatrical gentleman. He wrote plays, he wrote songs, and he was according to this movie, he was actually a World War II spy for the U.S. during the war. Yeah, he was a spy, and he discovered a lot of people too. He actually discovered Laurence Olivier. He discovered John Gielgud and David Lean, the great filmmaker, and other neat stuff we learned as well. He was also. It's funny, Kim. You said you really didn't know anything about him. He was also a forerunner in the art of what today they call branding, which seems like everybody these days, it's like a thing you have to do on social media. Branding is everything. And he was the consummate influencer in his own way in the 20s and 30s. But anyway, so if you already love Noel Coward, you'll love this movie. If you've never heard of Noel Coward, I think you'll find this movie a delightful discovery, and in retrospect, just as entertaining and witty and humorous as the man was himself. And you'll want to know more. You'll want to dig deeper into the plays and the songs. He wrote some of the plays he wrote. I don't know if you're familiar with any of them. They're a little dated today, so they need to be played a certain way in order to seem more relevant. But Private Lives is probably his biggest, most popular play. It was revived in the 80s with Liz Taylor and Richard Burton on Broadway. Anyway, Yeah, he wrote the screenplay. Well, actually, it was a theater piece, and he adapted it into a film called Cavalcade, which won the Oscar for Best Picture back in 1933. And I think for people that don't know about Coward, watching this is probably going to come as a revelation for them, especially in this 21st century, that there was a man in the century last whose artistic proliferation as a singer and a songwriter and a composer and a lyricist and an actor, a humorist, a playwright, a director, a screenwriter, and a poet. There's probably more creative hats he wore than I could even think of, but the man's artistic output and commercial success by any human standard remains unequaled and astounding to this very day. So an incredible life, an incredible personality, and an incredible career is excellently and very entertainingly all captured in this movie, Mad About the Boy, the Noel Coward story.
Wow.
It's
okay.
in select theaters, and I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah. I mean, I agree. So it's in theaters, but not yet streaming?
Yes, it's on VOD as well. Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
the streaming VOD, video on demand. I say video on demand when I'm completely not sure of how many of the streaming services it's being carried by, because that stuff changes all the time.
Yeah.
I'll get a notice from a publicist like before I go on talking with you that will totally contradict what I was told the day before. So that's the movie biz these days. Yeah, it just keeps changing.
Very cool. Okay, so let's look at this one. It's called A Different Man.
Yeah, have you heard about that? Have you seen the trailer for this?
I haven't seen the trailer.
It's a very unusual movie, and it deserves points and props for what it attempts. It's, I guess, a kind of a black comedy. It's about the struggling actor with neurofibromatosis. I think that it's called. It's a condition that pretty much disfigures your face. So you basically look like John Merrick, the Elephant Man, with this disease. And so, he's got this condition, this actor, and this causes him some not too surprising personal anguish, of course. And so he makes the decision to submit himself to some medical surgery, and he undergoes a special treatment that cures him of this neurofibromatosis. But then there are, of course, some personal and professional ramifications and existential setbacks that come about from that decision. This is the second film this week to star Sebastian Stan, who played a young Trump in The Apprentice. He plays the actor in this, and he's great as always. And the movie explores in a very oddly rhythmic manner this character's plight after he decides to look like everybody else in order to fit in. Okay, so thematically it covers familiar ground. It's like Beauty and the Beast stuff, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, all that. And presumably to avoid the cliche, does cover all of this familiar ground in this weird and noticeably wacky style, or rather wacky mixture of styles. And the problem I had with the film, and it's getting really good reviews, but it kind of left me. The problem I had with it was that its combination of styles, comic and otherwise, it screams at the viewer, right? And screams, I want to be different and quirky, but different and quirky for the sake of being different and quirky. At least that's how it played to me. So the movie became strange for the sake of being strange, gimmicky, and gimmicky is okay, but not if the gimmick keeps taking you out of the story being told. And A Different Man is a story. The other problem with it, it's not a problem because really there's, everything old is new again, and there's nothing new under the sun. But A Different Man is a story whose themes have been covered multiple number of times in other movies. And I saw what they were trying to do here to present these themes in an unusual way, but style gets in the way of substance and emotional investiture. And so to me, watching this movie came across as it's like I was watching a mediocre off-Broadway show. Oh. And unfortunately, its potential is obscured by its over-reliance upon stylistic weirdness. And as a result, it fails. How can I say what's wrong? The movie fails to stick the landing. It's not a bad movie. It's just when you add everything up, curiously refuses to just pass muster. When it's over, you just want to shrug your shoulders and say, huh? what? And that's what it did. Left me going, okay, all right.
Not recommended.
So as far as A Different Man goes, if folks listening have a choice, I recommend that they check out A Different Movie. That's my joke. Anyway, yeah. I mean, if if you like sort of risky, kind of experimental black comedies, you may want to check it out. And I always tell people, maybe listen to what I say, but I read some critics whose opinions I usually don't like, but they always say things in a way, or they'll bring out elements in the story that I'm going, that sounds interesting enough for me to check out, regardless of, whether this particular critic disliked it or not. Mm-hmm. So, I encourage people, listen to what I say, but if what I say sounds interesting enough for you to check it out, even though I personally maybe didn't like the movie, check it out anyway. Yeah. So
A Different Man. Okay. Let's do a quick recap. And I have to admit that, well, I'll get to it. I'll tell you my mistake. The first movie you had for us is The Apprentice. And you say it was a good movie, but you just can't stomach any more Trump. Yeah. You said and I'll say we can't be objective on this, but with reluctance, you recommend it.
Yes.
Mad About the Boy. This is my admission. I didn't take notes during this movie during your review of this movie because I was so interested in learning more about him. So suffice to say, you loved it. You recommend it. Mad About the Boy, a Noel Coward story. As for A Different Man, you said there's a mixing of styles that's way too obvious, gimmicky in a way that takes you out of the story, and that style gets in the way of substance here. You said it's like watching a mediocre off-Broadway play, and you do not recommend A Different Man.
Yes, and I'm not among the critical consensus on this one. My colleagues seem to love this one. I don't know I can't remember if Michael reviewed it or not.
He did. I think he liked it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, there you go. Yeah.
See, that's what's interesting is like two different perspectives.
Well, look, Kim, everybody can't be right? So I'll just cop to being right all the time, and then we can just leave it go with that. I'm joking. A request from Cranky Charcoal in the UK. If possible, he writes, would it be possible if Tim could give us a suggestion of a great older movie to watch each week? Maybe something that isn't that mainstream. Oh, I can do that, boy. Yeah, and I can do a lot of that off the top of my head. Oh, yeah. I mean, those are my those movies, the ones I grew up on, the classics. I mean, I'm not that old, but, watching TV, the movies from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. Yeah. I loved the movies from the 60s to the 70s was like an amazing decade for creative filmmakers. Oh, yeah, we could do that. We could, let's start that next week. Oh, and somebody, I remember last week had asked you to ask me if I had seen The Penguin.
Oh, that's right. I'm glad you remembered that.
Yeah,
thank you, Cranky Charcoal, for that, by the way.
Yeah, yes, and thanks, Cranky Charcoal. Cranky Charcoal, is that right? Okay, all right. Yeah, that's a good tag name.
It is.
Yeah. But I did. I think the third episode is just about to air. Yeah, and it's very good. Colin Farrell, the Irish actor, plays the Penguin, and there is no way in hell you would ever know that it was him, because the makeup on him is so brilliant that you're wondering, like, well, who's this actor? This kind of heavyset actor that I've never seen before. And it's really what it is. It's kind of like a mafia drama. So it gets it gets a lot violent, and I don't know, mafia movies always make me nervous when one of the shows I'm watching too now. I just discovered it because I was interviewing an actor today who was in it, but it's called Hunters, and it's on Amazon Prime, and it's about a bunch of Jewish Holocaust survivors who are living in the United States who are hunting Nazi criminals that have escaped to this country, but that are under, false disguises. And, their goal is to seek them out and kill them. So it's really good, but it's very like mafia movies, like The Penguin. gosh, they can get really violent, and ugh. The older I get, the harder it is for me to disassociate from some of this stuff. I keep telling myself, Tim, this is just a movie,
Yeah.
it's just a movie. But boy, I don't know. Maybe
There's
it's
Hunters, so you say that's pretty violent. It has Al Pacino in it.
Al Pacino. It's his
Hmm.
first television series. He
Oh,
finally gave in
wow.
to do it. Yeah, and he plays an elderly Jewish man he's the head of this organization. I'm only into the second episode, so I'm trying to piece together how all these characters fit in. But it is really, really good, and the Penguin is really, really good too if you like mafia dramas. I don't know where it's all gonna go, but it sure is interesting. And yeah, and I like it. I like the Penguin. I think somebody, after I got off, somebody had asked you to ask me
Yeah.
whether or not I liked it, and it is very good. Yeah, it's a good
So the
series.
Penguin is on Max.
Max,
And
yes.
Colin Farrell, and you can see the picture there, what you're talking about, with this kind of
Yeah,
scarred, face that doesn't
yeah.
really look like him at all. You're right.
It doesn't look, and in no way from the voice dialect that he's affected would you ever in a million years even think it was him. He'd be the last actor to come to mind. So
So
he's quite amazing. He's quite good in the role. Yeah.
is this the same Penguin in the? Is it the
Gotham
whatever?
City.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same
Batman.
thing.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the same. It's like his backstory and how he came to be the Penguin. And
Okay.
oh my God, I mean, whoa, talk about dark, dark and nasty. Oh God.
Wow. So
Yeah. So
violent but good.
violent but good. Yeah, yeah,
Interesting. All right, and
yeah.
that's on Max, and it started September 19th, and I guess that's a series that's streaming along with The Hunters or
Yeah,
Hunters.
The Hunters is all
Hmm.
on. I think all the seasons are on. The Penguin is I think the third episode. It's either just aired or it will air this weekend. So it's a good way to not have to binge something and to
Yeah.
stay current on it. Yeah, it's good. It's
Good.
really good. Yeah.
Well, we got two extra reviews out of you for streaming series, which I love, and a request for an old movie tip of the week, which will start next week. But
Okay.
already,
Yeah.
Karen Cooper is saying, "What about The Godfather from 1973?" I think that's
Oh,
what she's hoping.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a masterpiece. That's
Mm-hmm.
just one of the great. Oh, yeah, great movie. Yes, nothing wrong with that movie, man. Yeah,
Nola Fidian says Danny DeVito was the best Penguin.
yeah. He was. Danny DeVito was pretty good, but see, he played it a little sort of tongue in cheek,
Sure.
very kind of over the top. Really good for what they wanted for those Tim Burton movies.
Right.
This Penguin is really dark, really
Bad
dark.
guy. Real bad
Bad.
guy.
Oh yeah.
Ugh.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, Tim Sika, what a treat. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a great weekend, and thank you for leaving us as we start our weekends with some great movies and some great reviews from you at the movies with Tim Sika. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Kim. Talk to you next week. Have a
Bye
good weekend.
bye.
Bye.
At the movies with Tim Sika, I'm so honored that he comes on with us every week to talk movies. I think maybe we have time for. Oh, Burgess Meredith as the Penguin, too. We should do like a Penguin comparison. I have a feeling this Penguin he's talking about is a much more sinister character, but it has my interest piqued. And even though I don't really go for the extra gruesome, violent, dark stuff, might give the first episode a try to see what that's about. Yeah. Anyway, I love talking to Tim. So glad that he's here. But let's jump back into some of the stories of the day. Last night was another night, another opportunity for us to see the northern lights here in the Bay Area. And that some of us did. I'll share my picture with you. We have this, thanks to Wes, we have this great page on Facebook called the Mark Thompson Show discussion page. And I think there's like almost 220 core Mark Thompson Show listeners that have signed up for it. And it's growing every day. And last night, I posted that I went outside to see if I could see the northern lights here in Petaluma. No. I think if you look right center of the screen, it almost looks like in the middle of the clouds, a clearing of a heart shape. So I thought that was kind of cool. Or maybe I'm just seeing things. No northern lights for me. Did not see it. Turned around in every direction, tried to mess with my phone to see if my phone could pick it up. No go. It was a no go. So that's what I posted on the page. And then Becky in Placer County posted this. She said, look it, I saw it with my phone. Yeah. So that's what she was seeing in Placer County. It's light, but I can make it out. And I will tell you that if I had seen that last night, I would have been jumping around doing calisthenics on my front lawn, being so excited about it. George writes that this is not a picture that he took. He's like, this isn't my picture. But he said we could see it in Siskiyou County. So up in Siskiyou County, and I think that's the Sierra, right? The part of the Sierra, they could see some of the northern lights. So Placer County, Siskiyou as well. Then Tim weighed in, not Tim Sika, another Tim. He said his niece is in Pennsylvania and she's taking some night classes. And this is a photo that she sent him from Pennsylvania where they could see the northern lights there last night as well. And then we have Karen, who I think she's also in the Sierra, but this is her shot. And she managed to see some of the northern lights as well. So these are our friends of the show. And look at all the wonderful pictures. We have Becky's, we have Karen's. That's from here in California, Pennsylvania. So those are some, I'm so excited to see those pictures because I couldn't get one of my own. And here's my sad little no colors at all, but that's all right. There I was out at midnight on the lawn trying to see the sky. That's all right. Did you see it where you were? Anything? No? Mount Shasta. Okay. Very cool. We couldn't see them last night, says Debbie, in Idaho, but got some great pics on Monday when they were out then too. Oh, that's excellent. Wonderful. Rhonda says she saw some purple in my picture. Girlfriend, I don't think so. Let's go back. Where's the purple? I don't know. You know what, though, Rhonda? I was really trying for it. I mean, I want there to be purple there. I was trying to see things I couldn't see. But maybe, you know what, Rhonda? If you say there's purple in my picture, then I say I saw the northern lights. Winner! There you go. I don't know. If you say so. I really, I wanted that to happen, so I don't know. Didn't see anything on the peninsula. It was kind of cloudy last night. That's part as well. I heard from someone in San Francisco. They said it was too foggy. So JT says, beautiful. I'm in Placer. Went out at 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., but nothing. He thinks maybe the timing wasn't ideal. So pretty. I'm not sure if JT is a man or a woman, but he or she thinks this. So yeah, so some people in Placer County, sometimes I think you kind of have to be at a higher elevation maybe, or have something not blocking you, maybe be looking in the exact right direction. I don't know. Too much light pollution in Sacramento. I heard the same thing for folks in San Jose and the South Bay area as well. BA agrees with Rhonda. Top center, I see some purple. All right, back to the photo. Really? You see some purple there? I have to wipe off my screen. Okay. I mean, is it the night sky? Or is it purple? I'm okay. I say that I got a little bit of purple and a heart shape. I'm taking it. I will absolutely take it. Yeah. Yep, it's in that cloud, says B.A. Ware. SJ Lola agrees. I see purple. You guys, did I see the northern lights? Are you kidding me? Okay, that's cool. Looks cool even without the purple, says JT. David, that's my husband. He says their monitors are broken. No, Lori doesn't see it. Could be their screens. She agrees. Well, I was hoping, again, there I am. There's a spider that lives in the corner of my front door and is active at night. So I braved the spider to go out onto the front lawn and see if I could see the spider. But now that you're saying purple, I mean, I'm seeing purple now that you guys are saying it. But I'll tell you, last night on the front lawn, it didn't really look like much. So her eyes are going. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we'll jump into a different story, but I did want to share that with you. Did you know that there is something called breakdancing head. And it would make sense that if you're spinning around on your noggin, that you could possibly do some damage to said noggin. And that is exactly what is happening. There is a risk for breakdancers. It's called a head spin hole, or you get this lump on your scalp. Well, it would make sense, kind of like you have a callus on your finger if you do a repetitive motion there. Breakdancers who perform repetitive head spins risk this unique issue, a protruding lump on the scalp, hair loss, and tenderness. So it would make sense that if you're spinning on your head, pulling your hair in a certain direction, that your hair would be torn from your scalp. The study was published Thursday in the journal BMJ Case Reports. And they say they called it breakdancer overuse syndrome. Turning on his head over and over again, a man in his 30s developed a head spin hole, or a breakdance bulge, an injury specific to breakdancers, according to the researchers here. And they say these acrobatic moves make breakdancers especially susceptible to sprains and strains, including carpal tunnel syndrome. Look at the way the wrist is bent back there. Swollen, inflamed tendons as well. Some breakdancers suffer head and brain injuries, subdural hematomas, pooling of blood between the skull and the brain. That's a subdural hematoma. And with breakdancing gaining visibility through competitions and being included in the Olympics this last year as well, they say understanding the physical toll that it takes on dancers is more and more relevant. So the report is interesting because it's a lot of cultural, athletic type of information that I think we haven't really thought about maybe until now. The research, by the way, done at the University Hospital in Copenhagen in Denmark. They say in performing various types of head spin maneuvers for more than 19 years, one patient practiced 5 times per week for about 1.5 hours each session, applying direct pressure to the top of his head for 2 to 7 minutes. And despite the growing lump and hair loss, he continued to do these head spins. And when the lump increased significantly in size, his scalp began to feel tender, and finally he sought medical help. And they say a head scan showed thickening of the skin, tissue, and skull around this lump. No apparent signs of cancer. I think it's like your body building up resistance to a point where you're constantly abusing it over and over again, right? So it would make sense. So their report covers just one case that they found, but they say it's significant because as this breakdancing phenomenon continues, that, it's important. They said repetitive pressure on any part of the body, but particularly the scalp, can cause things like this. So, yeah, there you go. Breakdancing head. You don't want that. No, thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit before we go about this robot finger. I know, it looks a little naughty, doesn't it? That was my first thought. What are you going to do to me with the finger? I'm just saying. Come on. Maybe that's TMI. I don't know. This is a robot finger that is supposed to be able to take your pulse someday, check for tumors someday, and we're back to this story like in the Star Trek sickbay, where they just scan you with a thing, fix all your problems with a little wave of the magic robot finger, and you're all done. This sophisticated robot touch finger could one day help your doctor perform routine office exams as well. So, according to this report in the journal Cell Reports Physical Science, this finger can take a person's pulse and detect abnormal lumps. Yeah. They say it might also help ease the discomfort of people who don't really want to be handled by a human being. So it kind of takes that physical connection away with the doctor and maybe makes people feel a little more like in a, purely clinical, so there's no one touching you. They're working on improving this efficiency of the robot finger. They say a dexterous hand made of such fingers can act as a robo-doctor in a future hospital, like a physician. Emerging technologies coming out of the University of Science and Technology of China. Combine this thing with machine learning, automatic robot examination and diagnosis can be achieved, they say, particularly beneficial for underdeveloped areas where there's a serious shortage in health workers. A rigid robotic finger already exists, but they haven't been proven to be up to the task of delicate medical exams. So, here we go with a robot finger. They say there's been really remarkable progress with this stuff in the last decade, but there are still gaps in the touch and feel of robots as compared to human hands. So to overcome it, and you can kind of see this in this photo here, it looks like a plastic arm with this coiled finger coming out. It looks like coils and coils, and then with maybe a piece of silicone at the very tip. They say the researchers placed conducive fiber coils inside of a soft robotic finger that could monitor in real time how far the digit bends as it touches an object, and then how much force occurs at the fingertip. They tested this thing by stroking the fingertip with a feather, tapping it and pushing it with a glass rod, smash it with your iron rod, and repeatedly bending it as well. The device's sensors accurately perceived the type and quantity of force applied in all of those tests. So then they mounted it on this robotic arm you see here, and they ran across it a large silicone sheet containing 3 lumps, and the finger detected all of those lumps and correctly located an artery on a person's wrist and took its pulse as well. Humans, they say, can easily recognize the stiffness of diverse objects simply by pressing on it with their finger. And similarly, this device has the ability to sense both its bending, deformation, and the force at the fingertip. It can detect stiffness similar to our human hand by simply pressing on an object. So what are they going to do next? They're going to add more sensors and create more flexibility in this finger, which would be needed for more effective and efficient medical exams. So what they are hoping is to develop an intelligent, dexterous hand together with sensorized, artificial, muscle-driven robotic arms to mimic the unparalleled functions and fine manipulations of the human hand. That's it. We're being replaced. Party over. And that's that. I wonder if someday we're going to go into a little room, little cube, and be felt up by the robotic finger hand. And the report gets sent maybe to a doctor sitting in another cube who will issue a report on what's happening with us, take all the data. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's weird, right? The robotic finger? All right, I wanted to end with something kind of fun. Can we talk about this really strange looking bridge? I don't know if this is fun. Maybe you could call it weird? Yeah, they say it's the weirdest bridge. It is weird. Why you would build it like this, I'm not quite sure. There is a video of it as well that I wanted to show you. But can you imagine having a bridge like that in the Bay Area? It takes up an awful lot of space. I mean, maybe if you don't have a channel where ships need to come through? I don't know. What's the point of having the open water in the middle? It's an interesting design. I'll give it that. I will give it that. I do have some video to show you of this thing as well. Here's what it looks like. Check that out. You can see the cars driving around. Even the supports underneath. The water flowing through the center there. It's really interesting looking. I think it's really interesting looking. I'm going to pan out, show us what's on the other side there. Yeah. And that's what it looks like from afar. It's cool. I know some people are kind of freaked out over bridges on the whole, but I mean, I don't know. This is called the Laguna Garzon Bridge. They say it's the most subtly weird bridge in the world. This weird bridge, circular. It's in Uruguay. Uruguay. They say this is an all-around great example of why circular bridges should actually be more of a thing. This is kind of cool. I don't know what to think about this thing. It's so different than any other bridge I've ever seen. I don't know if I like it or if I don't. Yeah, I just don't know. This lagoon bridge cost $10 million to build. That's not a lot when you talk bridges. It was constructed from more than 450 tons of formed steel, 25 miles of post-tension cables, and 3,500 cubic meters of concrete. And it was completed in 2015. So they say at first glance it would be easy to dismiss this shape of this bridge as unnecessary. But they designed it with some pretty specific outcomes in mind. So this area where the bridge is located is an important bird and biodiversity area in Uruguay, Garzon Lagoon. And it's home to bird species, including the Chilean flamingo and several plover species. There's endangered amphibians here as well. And so it was important to create a bridge that would not disturb the surrounding ecosystem, water and all, as little as possible. They didn't want that. And so by separating the circular bridge's two roadways, they say the design reduces the time that any given spot on the surface of the water is continuously shaded as the sun moves across the sky, and minimizes the contiguous area impacted by shade, improves the light penetration and dispersal across that water column. And it was also designed to get people to slow the F down in more ways than one. It's a fairly tight turning radius on this large circular bridge, and that focuses on drivers slowing down while crossing. It encourages drivers to take in the natural beauty of this area as well. They say you don't have to drive to enjoy the landscape either. They have pedestrian walkways on either side of this, split traffic lanes, giving access to the bridge's central opening and its perimeter as well, where you can sit, you can fish off the side of the bridge, you can take in the views, or whatever. So there you go. They say it's actually kind of dreamy. And I will say it is super fascinating to look at this thing. I think because I just don't know what to make of it. But when you hear why they did it, it seems a little bit more, I don't know, understandable and interesting. What do you think of this bridge? You like it? Go into the chat. See what you guys have to say about this one. Here it is. Uh-oh, my chat isn't coming up for some reason. Where are you guys? Here you are. Trying to get there. Can we do this bridge in the Bay Area, says Jim. I think it's kind of cool. You would have to have it in a lagoon area like this, and in a spot where larger boats and ships aren't coming in. Even in Petaluma, we've got a drawbridge at the Petaluma River that opens to let the larger vessels through. So you would have to put it in a spot where you needed to get from one side to the other, but it wasn't a major shipping lane. Yeah. What will they think of next, says Nullifidian. B.A. Ware says the circular design reduces the time that any given spot on the water, is shaded. That's exactly right. Right. SF Tesla says it won't let you, but you can change your mind and double back. Yeah, if you see there's a gore point at the end, which kind of separates the lanes of traffic. I don't think there's any U's at the end. It's not like a traffic circle where you can just keep going around and come back from whence you came. Not a traffic circle. No. You can't keep going around and around. Once you're going a certain direction, that's it. No. Sandy says, I like it because it's unique, but I don't know exactly what the point is. Yeah. I don't know. Liz says, I like that bridge. I kind of do too. Like, I find myself finding it fascinating. SJ Lola says, couldn't pay me to drive over a drawbridge. Really? God, I drive over it every single day. Yeah. It's got a little house next to it here in Petaluma. There's a little drawbridge guy in there that raises and lowers it at certain times of the day. Teacher Lori says, this is super cool. If it's helping maintain the biome of the area, it's great. Mo says it's a circle. There are no points. Yeah, there are two little points at each end of the circle where the roadway continues in a straight path that separate the lanes of traffic so that you couldn't keep going around and around. Yeah. Are there pedestrians in the inner part of the circle? They say there are walkways where you can sit and you can look at the vistas and you can fish. I tend to think the walkways are on the outer part. Maybe they're on the inner part. It looks like they might be on the inner part given the way it looks. So yeah, kind of cool. Super interesting though. B.A. Ware says there are 4 crosswalks. Yes, to pedestrians. Yeah, there are. Yeah. So there you go. That's the Laguna Garzon Bridge in Rocha, Uruguay. I met a guy from Uruguay when I was in high school. His name was Marcelo, and he was a foreign exchange student. I was a freshman at Petaluma High, and he was a senior, and he was cute. That's my only interaction with anyone from that country. That's it. Thus ends the After Party Live on a Friday. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience today. I know the Mark Thompson show ended late. That means we start late, but that was our kind of group agreement that that's the way it would work. And I tried to start right away. So I appreciate you being here. And I do have some people to thank. It's been a big day on the After Party Live. In addition to Wes's $5 via PayPal, Susan has thrown down a $10 super sticker. Huge thank you and cute picture of you with your coffee. Love that photo. Luis says, have to celebrate 2 years of the Mark Thompson show with an after party. That's right. Thank you for all you do day in and day out. Keep it live, and mahalo. Mahalo to you, my friend. And thank you, Luis, for being such a big supporter of the show. And thank you for your $5 super sticker today as well. Also, I have to say, I really love the pictures that you sent me of Crowded House recently. So thank you for that. Debbie throwing in a $10 super sticker as well. Huge thank you, Debbie, for supporting this show. Couldn't do it without you, and I'm very grateful. Thank you very much to Rhonda, my newest Aloha friend. I thank you for that. Rhonda with a $5 super sticky. Thank you for being a sticker. Thank you for being here. And thank you for pointing out that it's possible I did see the Northern Lights last night. Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying. I love it. Thank you so much, Rhonda. I appreciate it. And a reminder from Deidre to all of the Bay Area friends with the Mark Thompson show, Nikki Maduro show, and this show as well, the After Party Live. There is a meeting set up by you guys, by Deidre. There are other people that are involved in this as well. It's at Testarossa Winery in Los Gatos on Saturday, October 19th at 1 p.m. And if you are going, you can send something to me or put it in the chat. But I'll get it to Deidre if you want to send it to me, Kim at theafterparty.live. And they need to know how many people are going to show up that day because they're making a reservation. So it would be nice for them to know. So if you are going to go and you do want to contact them, send it to me. I'll send it to them with your information and you guys can get into contact. So again, that is October 19th, 1 p.m., Testarossa Winery in Los Gatos. Huge thank you to everyone for being here today. And thank you for all the super stickers and the way you participate. Have a really good weekend. Make it the very best one. I'll see you back here on Monday. Gary Dietrich will be on the Mark Thompson show. That starts at 11 a.m. Pacific time here on YouTube. And also True Crime Corner with Courtney. So it'll be a really good show. But until we meet again, make it a great weekend, and I will see you back here, everybody. Bye. 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 Oh, wait, I'm in the music. I'm not in the video. Now, bye.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.